Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for December 15th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating. And also present are Aaron McHale, Emma Harrell, Ralph Kohler, Simo Helston, and Thomas Howell. So I've got open the issue for today's meeting, which is number 340-5362. I'd like to start by giving a little demo. So actually, in the screen you can't see. What I'm going to do is check out the 10.2.x branch. Oh, this is going to take a second. And 10.2 is going to be released today. And what I've navigated to here is admin structure content types, and then manage fields for content type. So the current state of the add field experience is you create, well, first of all, if you click on reuse an existing field, you get this new mobile form. If you click on create a new field, which is what I want to focus on, you don't get a modal, but you get this form. And we've previously observed several usability issues. For instance, if you click on plain text, which is not a single field type, but a group of field types, if you click on that, these options appear at the bottom of the screen. And if your screen isn't large enough, or if there are too many options, you might not notice that. Another option is that it's easy to miss the required label field, just because the rest of the screen is so visually appealing. Let's see, number, I think, has 3 options. Date and time is just 2. So anyway, that's the current state with 10.2, and unfortunately, that is what is going to be released later today. Give me a minute. Oh, by the way, I'll give in the Zoom chat a link to the site I'm using. As usual, you can log in with admin/admin. So now I'm going to go back here and start over again with the create a new field. And this just got committed a few hours ago, so it's not going to be in the release of Drupal 10.2, but this is what we will have going forward. The label field is gone from this screen. If you click on one of the options, nothing happens until you submit the form. And then you get this screen where you can enter the label and choose one of the 2 options. There are still problems. There's still a lot of room for improvement. Like Simo in particular pointed out, there are some usability and accessibility issues with this formatting of radio buttons. Ralph pointed out additional usability issues with voiceover on Mac OS. It's also awkward if you choose something that is a single field and not a group of fields. You get a form with just the label element, which is, yeah, I think not great to have a whole screen just for one element. but I think we're finally in a position where we actually will make more rapid progress going forward, having done this intermediate step. Any questions or comments on that?
Maybe when this is all in a model, it'll be better in terms of, when you have a single form with just the label element. But I think it's
Yes.
also okay in the interest of consistency. So, sometimes it's a give and take.
Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
Wrong button. But wasn't the idea also to move the label field to the next screen over? And that way, such a case like a page with only a field is impossible? Only a label field?
Yeah, I think two of the next steps are to do what Aaron said, is to put this into a modal window. And another step is to take this label field and remove it from that page and just let you enter it on this page.
Yep.
So I think those are both pretty manageable issues. And the key thing is that we've broken up the issues rather than trying to do it all at once, which is what was really slowing everything down. A technical point is that if you were to look at this URL, which basically no one ever does, but this first step of the form and the second step of the form are actually the same URL. So it's a two-step form rather than two separate forms. And that probably doesn't make very much difference to usability, but it does mean that the implementation is a lot simpler than what was previously being worked on. So I'm very pleased that we're finally making progress on this, and I only wish we had gotten it in time for 10.2, because I really think that having to wait another 6 months is a problem. Okay, there aren't any other questions on that. We do have a request, since today is the global contrib day for the Claro theme. There is one issue that we've been asked to look at. Does anyone here have anything else they'd like to look at? Thanks for posting the link in the Zoom chat. So this is issue 3398277. The Claro content editing area is too narrow. And I'm afraid the steps to reproduce are a little vague, so maybe you can help me out here. The problem is that the content editing area is too narrow when using vertical tabs. So if we look, here's this screenshot. I suppose that's what we're supposed to be doing. So this looks like a node edit form. It has the revision log message, menu settings, and so forth in the right sidebar. So is this what the node editing form looks like currently? Let's go to content and edit an article. How about an English article? Let's hear it for carrots. So I have the right sidebar. I have the admin toolbar. But go ahead, Ralph. Or is that? I haven't dismissed the little notification that you raised your hand a few minutes ago. This is not what the screenshot is showing, is it? Language. Is this using some existing patch? Ralph, go ahead.
It's basically the width of the edit fee or the main content area is widened with that patch basically. I've applied a patch. And we can take a look at it side by side if you want to.
Sure.
Oops, I have to lower my hand.
I'm just a little confused that I can't get the same screen that's shown in the screenshot. I don't see a link yet in the Zoom chat. Still working on that.
One second. Yeah. Forget. Okay, I send it over. That way you only see the patch applied, but I had a second tab open with the patch not applied, and that way switching over the difference is easier visible.
Okay, so I'll just switch between the two tabs a little bit.
Or if you create a new node on the umami one, then it might be similar. Yeah.
So the edit area is just a little wider in this patch, in this window, which has the patch applied. I guess notice in my site, this one, I have Umami installed, so we have a media widget, and Ralph's site has the standard profile installed, so it has an image. So that's an easy way to figure out which one you're currently looking at. What does it look like on a narrow screen? So this is Ralph's site with the patch applied, and content area takes up basically the whole width, and the sidebar gets pushed down to the bottom of the page. Probably that looks pretty similar. Yeah, so on a narrow screen, they look the same. On a wider screen, the editing area is just a little larger. Let me see on an intermediate width screen. This is the same layout, I think, as the narrow screen. But even here, I think we're, with the patch applied, we have a little more editing room than we do here. And Ralph says in the chat, it's 115 characters without the patch and 129 characters with the patch applied, roughly. So I wonder how much of, I'm still a little concerned that I can't reproduce the screenshot, but maybe I know how. So let's go to configuration, content authoring, text formats and editors. And I think this might be one of the new features in 10.2 that I haven't had a chance to look at. But there's something about block editing, source listing, list media. Buttons, underline, code block, strike through. Show blocks. Maybe what it is. Enable a plugin that supports creating span tags. I thought that I had done that. Oh, that didn't work. All right, I'm just going to have to give up on this guy. Heading styles, source editing. Maybe this is what I needed. Where's language? Alt view mode. No, This is why we want steps to reproduce. It's just not working. I think it's buggy. I think it's not me. All right. With all of that, if I reload this edit page, nice. Still don't see the layout that was in that screenshot. Still don't get these things in the left sidebar. I don't know how to get those. But I think probably the wider main content area or narrowing these margins a little bit is probably a good idea. Does anyone have other thoughts? Is this too cramped? Is there not enough area between the main text box and these things in the sidebar? Thomas, go ahead.
To my eye, it gets a little bit busy at that point because it still appears to be relatively vanilla. And I worry once people add a lot of stuff into their editing forms, it could get overwhelming. But that said, the bigger issue is I'm not seeing a huge improvement by doing this. So it's hard to make a real recommendation without those steps to reproduce. And I think to me, that's the bigger issue is this isn't a big enough improvement for me to say sight unseen without being able to see how it addresses the issue that is proposed. If I can't see it fixing that issue, I'm just guessing at this point, and I'd prefer not to do that.
Okay, that's fair. Ralph, go ahead.
2 points. At first, I've asked Christina on the admin UI Slack how to reproduce the scenario from the screenshot, and she said it's a contrib module, I think, but ask for reassurance to Sasha Egi, but he hasn't answered yet. And the other point, my main slight problem with it is from a readability perspective, the line length gets even wider and longer. And the ideal, since the CK editor field isn't resizable, you're stuck with the line length. And the recommendation is around 80 characters. And before the patch, it already had 115 and now 130, and it could get challenging for some people that way.
There was a bug with the grid with the main and side column, and at that point we talked a bit about the width, because there is always some people who want to have 100% width, and there are some changes coming to Claro, and I think changing the width a little bit is something that it should be part of the kind of a bigger picture. And there is kind of also, if we change a little bit, then is it so that maybe it changes for one certain width improves, but doesn't for another one, and then we need to change it again, or depending on what the situation is. But I'd really like to see what's causing the problem.
So let's look at this issue. Is this part of a plan issue? Does it have related issues? So it's related to node form layout, looks awkward on wide screens. Oh, and that one's already been fixed. Let me just make this screen very wide and see what happens. So on a very wide screen, we get a lot of white space in the left margin, and the distance between these two increases. But I think until recently, all of the white space was added between the two regions, which looked weird. So that one has recently been fixed. I didn't notice that. There seems to be excessive white space when creating new content in the Claro theme. I think that's basically, what does that color mean? Closed duplicate. So those two are basically the same issue. It's referenced by node form layout looks squeezed, which is a duplicate issue. And it's referenced by wider paragraphs content editing form widget, which needs work. And that's an issue on the paragraphs module. So there is some discussion here. In fact, 20 comments. Ralph, do you have something else to say, or is your hand just still up?
No, just in addition to the layout on wide screens, I wouldn't consider it fixed. If I drag the window completely on a 36-inch screen, then the gap between the content area and the sidebar is still pretty wide, and it's challenging to jump in between them. So not sure if I would consider it fixed.
But this is something that there are like this is not a single issue, I think, because there were the new Figma designs for the those things. I didn't look at them. Remember, they had really wide screens, but it's kind of a part of the bigger picture. So because this was discussed in don't have the ticket number, but this I think Christina said that this width thing is something that it's not something that should be done by a single ticket, but it should like done as a whole, including the paragraph or kind of complex content and simple content, and so that it's kind of can balance between both worlds. Because there are trade-offs for having nice layout for simple content and nice layout for very complex content.
All right, so I think Thomas's point is well taken, that it's hard to evaluate this issue on its own, and there should be a plan issue that includes this and some related work. And I think we should not offer usability opinion until we can see it in the larger context. Like, is it enough to install the paragraphs module and do some configuration to reproduce the screenshot? And as Ralph points out, this area is really too long, too wide. It's already too wide without the patch, and gets wider And then as Seema points out, we need to accommodate both this use case where people haven't customized it a lot, haven't installed the paragraphs module, and more complicated use cases where they seem to be adding an extra sidebar. So would anyone like to leave a comment to that effect, or shall I try to do that? Okay, I think I can probably do that. Let me see, there's go ahead.
I just want to add, like, and I'm sorry, I was a bit kind of like distracted when the discussion was going on, so I only picked up certain bits of it. But I just don't. I'm just not sure I understand why making it wider is a problem. Like, I think if you're working on a wide monitor, maybe, but like you generally can shrink the size of your window, and also like if you're, I think it's better to give people the flexibility to view the editor wide, because if their content is going to be in quite a wide area, maybe they want to see how it flows when there's quite a wide screen, you know. So personally, I'm all for like making it wider. I don't think there's a I think giving people more flexibility about how wide it is a good thing. So like if it just flows to be as wide as the screen area, like that's good. You know, you can shrink the window if you need it smaller. I don't think that's a personally I don't see that as a problem, but happy to be convinced otherwise. But
All right, so just to illustrate your point, if this is too wide, whoops, I wanted to do. Anyway, if this seems too wide to you, you can always click and drag your browser window and get something that seems more
sure, yeah.
comfortable. Okay, Thomas, go ahead.
It's still a law of unintended consequences. I'm not comfortable with us making that kind of assertion without seeing what it's really supposed to do and how it works with what it's even supposed to solve. And I think change just for the sake of change without, like, that's not a huge improvement to me. I'm struggling to see it as an improvement rather than just kind of a lateral move. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. It's busy to me when you force these things close together, because then it becomes a question to me of arbitrary. Like, okay, if we want to make it so that it, rather than having that fixed width, it's sliding, then why don't we have more of a gap to the right? Like for me, it's too close to the right sidebar, and that it's opening up a can of worms without seeing what it's supposed to fix.
Right, that's a fair point. Yeah, like we should make sure there's enough visual space. And to be clear, I'm not saying like I think the point that was kind of touched around, which is, and this is something I wanted to raise, is like we have, you know, frankly, like there was what, 6 of us on this call. That's like 6 hours. That's like a whole work day, right? We, you know, depending on where you work. That like it's just generally speaking, we know we've been talking around about the idea of like process improvement and things for a while. I don't think it's worth our time reviewing issues where there's not really clear steps to reproduce, and it hasn't been like, we haven't verified that that is like you know, that how we can present the issue. Like we should, somebody, you know, if we've got an issue to present, we should make sure that during the meeting we can use that hour, or in this case those 6 hours, as valuable as best as possible. So I think if we're just generally speaking, because before we've talked about like, you know, making sure that issues have screenshots, and at the last meeting we were talking about, you know, maybe we needed like some standard, like we have some standard templates, or do we need a new tag? And I think this is just along those lines of like, if we bring an issue to the meeting, it has to be something that we can use that time as efficiently as possible, you know, because otherwise we can spend time outside of the meeting doing things that are prep or whatever, you know.
Yes. Okay, so let's, in that spirit, close off discussion on this issue. I'll try to leave a comment summarizing points we've made, okay? There is another issue. And this is something we discussed on Slack earlier in the week. The menu parent link selection. This is issue 1428520. So let me show the current state. If you go to structure, menus, and I always use the administration menu because that's the biggest and most complicated. And if I wanted to add a new menu link under structure, I can use the new add child link. And we recently redesigned this form using the node edit form as a model. And we have the parent link and the weight and expanded checkbox and the description. We've moved all of these to the sidebar, and only the parent link is shown by default. You have to open the details element to see the other elements. These used to be at the bottom of the main content area. So that's the current state. And then this issue, have they updated the screenshots? No, no one has updated the screenshots yet. So currently the best, whoa, I clicked the wrong button. I want to open it in a new tab, not save the file. The idea is to split up the parent link into two parts, one of which just chooses which menu it should be in, and the second of which only shows links within that menu. So I guess having used the add child link, maybe I don't see that. So let me go back a step to the menu list page and use the add link form. So here I see here I also just see things in the administration menu for the parent link. I think this issue may now be obsolete. I can add a menu from here. I can't add a menu link from here. The only way I can add a menu link. Ralph, go ahead.
I've quickly applied the patch to the other side. If you want, you can take a look there and quickly.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Manage structure. Oh, you don't have your usual modules applied. Structure, menus.
Benji, just as a reminder, we don't see, like, because you're sharing a window, we don't see the items in the dropdown when you expand it.
Ah, thank you. I'll try to describe them. So from here, I'm again editing the administration menu. If I add a link, so this is your site, isn't it? Yeah, it's not Umami. So the parent link shows me administration and then everything underneath the administration menu, but it doesn't show me anything outside the administration menu.
Yeah, but if you go to an existing menu link, there the menu and the parent link are both available in the sidebar.
Okay, so if I edit an existing menu link, but
But
Thank you.
adding new ones, that is the thing I referred to in the thread when we've discussed it during the week. That is the other detail that is not clear yet from my perspective.
Okay, so here it is with the patch applied, and let me again put that side by side. And what I have to do again is edit an existing menu link. And now, currently the parent is administration. If I expand this, I see all the menus, starting with the user account menu and then the administration menu, and then all the others as I scroll down. With the patch applied, I first choose which menu I want, and there's a very manageable list: administration, main navigation, user account menu, footer, and tools. Those are all the available menus on my site, just 5 of them. And once I choose one of these, say main navigation, the second select list updates and shows me things within that menu. Currently, there's only one item in there, so I can either have the root of the menu, main navigation, or I can have the home element. And if I go back to the administration menu, I again have many more options here. So any questions about the context? I guess it's important to know that you have to be editing an existing menu item, not creating a new one to see this. Any other questions or clarifications?
Well, I suppose this kind of adds one more widget when somebody needs to move a menu item from one menu to another menu. So there is a little bit more widget to be used, but I guess it's still easier, and it can be also done from the overview page. Or can it be done nowadays at the overview page? No, but if you need to move, maybe you have 2 different admin menus, and you need to move one menu item from one admin, like a site-specific admin menu to another site-specific admin menu. So then you need to kind of do a little bit more when there are two select lists instead of one. But I think it's still like might be still easier just being able to have less content in those.
Yeah, I think actually, let me open the administration menu. If you want to move things around within the administration menu, you can do that from this page. But if you want to move it to a different menu, I don't think you can do it from this page. I think
I think it was some of the like very much older versions where you could do that.
Okay.
But yeah.
And that moving it from one menu to another used to be really, really hard because the list of all available options is so long. And too bad you can't see it in Zoom, but there are a lot of things here as I scroll. And it's now quite easy with this patch to move it from the administration menu to, say, the footer menu. Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, I think this is overall improvement, and the fact that it gives you a lot more certainty when you're moving between menus, because if you think about like that big long, the big long list where particularly when it has the administration menu in, well, for one, it's if you just want to put something in the main menu and like move things around there, it's way less overwhelming if all you have to do is look at a list that just has your things for your main menu, which is probably only going to be like 5 or 6 items. And then also like moving between menus, it's quite like it could be quite common that one menu has like two menus have items named exactly the same thing. I could see that happening. So like maybe you think, okay, this was under something. Let's say this was in one menu under something page under about, and you want to move it to a different menu also under a page called about, which to me doesn't I don't know why you'd have two menus with about in the same, but that would maybe it might be that when you go to move it, you find the other page in the list, but maybe it was like maybe you accidentally moved it to a different menu. So like now, if you want to, the only way to move something to a different menu, basically, what I'm saying is that you have to intentionally select a different menu and then you get this item. So I'd say this is like gives the user more certainty that they're not going to accidentally move something to a different menu that they didn't intend to. And also certainly makes the list less overwhelming when you're not working with the administration menu directly for most cases. So this is definitely a big improvement. I wonder if we need to do anything like this is just off the top of my head, but seeing this, like say when you move something to a different menu, I'm just thinking, do we need to give the user any clear, like more indication that the list below has changed? So now they need to like select a new parent, or I don't know if it's how it is right now is enough for that, but it's just something that pops into my head. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe highlight maybe like something like how maybe we highlight the list of like the parent list or something. That's the only thing that come to mind.
Okay, let me first say that you got some thumbs up during that. Emma gave a thumbs up during the early part when you were talking about moving, I think, from one menu to another, and Simo gave a thumbs up later. Let's just look. If I've currently selected a child menu and then I change it from footer to tools, then I can visibly see that this parent link has updated, now says tools. It's the root element of that menu. So there is some visual indication.
And you also get that loading for a second. There is that kind of change where it reloads the form. So I mean that is good. Yeah, I see there is some kind of visual change happening that hopefully a user would see. And I guess I don't know if we need to do anything to deal with screen readers and other cases, but maybe Drupal's Ajax system will deal with that for us. I'm not sure.
So Thomas, go ahead.
Just two side comments that I'm positive the first comment would be a side issue, but I just want to share it in this context. And the second one, I don't know if it's appropriate to this issue. It'd be nice if it could be part of it. The first comment is looking now at how this page works. I'd love if we could capture this exact information in how it's logged into the system logs, so that if you're moving the link from one thing to the other, we've now got it organized by menu parent link, because you could show where it was and where it moved to. Because I've absolutely seen the about problem where you've got like the same menu link title used in a bunch of different places. And historically, I've lost links. When you have really crazy things, I've seen them get lost. And so if you accidentally, even on this page, and I love the certainty, and this is 100% thumbs up on this, if it moved to some place, I'd be worried about still thinking it was tools and it was actually tool that I was supposed to be moving it to for the menu, and then struggling to find it. So having it logged based upon how this page looks, and to me, that's almost 100% going to be a follow-up. The thing that I don't know if it's a follow-up is, at least with the parent link, because of how long menus the menus can be even within a given menu, it would be nice if it could be, rather than drop down, some form of autocomplete or search, something that's searchable. Because for one, it would show you in a really long menu, if you had 5 instances that looked like about, you would be able to see them all as options. Whereas if you're doing a scrolled through drop down of a really crazy long list, this is a tighter visual space than when you see the full family chain. So in the traditional way, I agree, it's horrible. This is an improvement, but you could potentially see where it was coming from, where you're looking at parent link. Here, you're only looking straight through that drop-down list. And so if it could be autocomplete at the very least, I can tell that there's 5 instances of about. And that's the only 2 comments I have. Thank you.
Okay, so if I were to save this, there's currently, I get status message, the menu link has been saved. And as typical, we get very little information from that. I don't think there's anything in the logs. If I check recent log messages, no, nothing since I logged in. But as we're all familiar, every time you add a new node, it gets a log entry. So I would call that not even a follow-up issue, but just another issue. And certainly worth considering. And I think someone gave a thumbs up to that idea. And then what was the other thing? Right, that you're suggesting that a select list is unmanageable when there are a lot of things in it. And I do remember discussion of offering a select or checkboxes widget, and not in this context, but I forget exactly what context it was. I think it was for fields that you add to a content type or something. And yeah, that might be another thing to consider. And if we do make that change, if we do give the option of showing this as checkboxes, possibly even searchable, that we'd have to consider the grouping and what's open by default and that sort of thing. But go ahead, Ralph.
2 small details. One suggestion in regards of Aaron's suggestion, indicating that when the block is the menu item is moved, one idea might be as soon as you change the menu and the parent link, then automatically show a second save button. So one save button saves the menu item and let you return to the current menu where the menu item is moved from, and a second save button to go to the menu where it's newly saved into. That way it would be more apparent to the user, and also you don't know where you want to go next editing a menu, if you want to stay in that current one or you want to go over in the one you're moving the menu into, a menu item into. That would be the one thing. And the other one is you've already shown it quickly, adding a new menu item. At the moment, the parent link is underneath, but I think it should be moved to the sidebar. But my question is, should also the menu select list be shown as well for creating a new menu item? So that it's okay that you pre-populate it with the menu, the user is pressing the add menu item button in, but that there's still the option at the last minute that you can change your mind, and instead of when you pressed the button in, for example, administration items, you can go still to the footer that way.
Okay. Yeah, and that I think would be appropriate for a follow-up issue, to add this not only when editing a menu, but also when creating a new link. And we just have a few more minutes. Go ahead, Simo.
Yeah, I was thinking that if we improve the notifications and logging, maybe also to check that there is information about the possible child items that are affected. So that's something I think is currently missing. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Okay. One other thing I want to check again. If I change this, the focus stays on the menu. Should it switch to the parent link item? Aaron, go ahead. I'm getting a couple of thumbs up. Ralph and Thomas.
Probably, yeah. I would think so. Once you select one, the natural like would be to change it. But what I was going to say is on when you create a menu item.
Sorry, we just lost your audio.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's okay that it's when you create a menu item, I think it's fine that it doesn't show the menu, because like you generally speaking, you create the menu item by going into a menu. So you've already selected the menu you want to create the item in. So I don't think actually showing it on the create form is necessarily like the most useful thing to do. If anything, maybe it just adds more confusion, because you go there and you think, well, I've already selected the menu. Do I need to like select it again or something? I mean, it'll probably already be pre-populated, but at that
Right.
point, I just think it's like unnecessary. So I presume if you haven't come from the menu list and you haven't selected it, it will show in the case where you just go directly to adding. But even then, I think you like add, I think the add route is under the menu. So I don't really know, but I'm fine with it not showing.
Okay. So we are running up against the time limit. I'll try to leave a comment on this issue as well, unless someone else wants to do it. And I think the one thing we discussed that perhaps is in scope for this issue is that point I made toward the end, that when you change the menu, the focus should switch to the parent link. Is that a fair recommendation?
I would like to see how that impacts screen reader users, but in general, yeah.
Okay, and I got a thumbs up from Simo and Thomas. Emma, did you want to say something?
I was going to agree. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming. It is the end of the hour. Next week is getting awfully close to Christmas. I don't know if people want to meet, but certainly the Zoom link is automatic, and I think I'll probably be here. But if no one else shows up, it'll be a very short meeting. So see you, if not next week, perhaps the week after. And thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Benji.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.